Yan, hello and good afternoon teachers at magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat at sa lating mga live viewers na who are here tuning in to our second episode no ng ating digital education series no for the month of September no. First of all teachers no, bago tayo magsimula, gusto ko muna po mag-apologize no kasi na-move yung time natin. We're supposed to start at 5:15 as usual every time na we have our sessions here at Kaagapay Teacher Support. But we are now back on site, no, and traffic happens. No? Sobrang traffic po sa labas sa mga nagko-commute po mga teachers natin. Pauwi pa lang po. Ingat po kayong lahat, no, lalo na po maulan pa, no. So dagdag na, patong-patong na rin no yung ating nararanasan. But anyway, maraming salamat pa rin po for all of you no, on tuning in into our session for today. So, hindi ko po kayo mag-greet lahat, no? Like per usual, na makakapag-shoutout po tayong lahat, no? Okay, kasi napakadami na po chat ngayon sa ating live chat ngayon. But good afternoon or good evening na actually, no? Para sa ating lahat. And once again, no, thank you so much for joining our session for today. Okay? And as we mentioned last time, no? Ito ay part no, ng ating entire series in partnership with Accredited. No? Alam natin, kilala natin ng Accredited. No? And itong mga topics that we have prepared for you definitely no, will impact no, how you view digital education. Okay? And we hope, no, sabi nga sa ating title, no, transforming learning and teaching. And that's what we hope to do. No? In all of the episodes we're going to have for this entire series, what we wanted to do is to impact learning and teaching no, inside the classroom or maybe even outside of the classroom. And for today, no, we have a very special okay, episode, okay, which will focus on a very particular no, approach, which is on computational thinking in K-12 classroom. And that's what we'll be focusing for this afternoon. At ako sobra personally excited ako kasi naririnig ko na yung computational thinking before, no, but I really haven't really seen like in full impact in the classroom or maybe in full effect in the classroom, no? And of course, even I personally, I'm not really, I haven't really used, no, computational thinking as an approach, no? But based on my research, no, even Google has been using computational thinking, no, as part of their processes, and that tells you a lot, no, how important this is and how massive, no, this particular approach that we're going to have this afternoon, no? And not only that, no, it will be contextualized no, by our speaker, okay, into the K-12 classroom. No? So paano nga ba i-apply? Kasi, well, Google is a corporate agency, and there's a difference when you apply that inside the classroom. So we're going to see that no, on how computational thinking is will be fitted inside our classrooms. Okay? But of course, bago pala tayo magsimula, no, Sir Jake, no, nasa background na rin si Sir Jake, no. Yan, Sir Jake, sorry, hindi po kagad kita na ipasok na. Anyway, Sir Jake, bago po natin ipakilala, by the way, na yung ating speaker for today, no, gusto lang kita rin i-greet Sir Jake ng good afternoon. Pero meron kasi akong isang special greeting, Sir Jake, na gusto ko pong muna, no, bakit mapagalitan ako at baka hindi po ako makatulog sa bed namin mamaya. No? Anyway, happy birthday po to Mami Jinky, no, my beloved wife, no, celebrating her 38th birthday today. So happy birthday, Mami Jinky, and of course, we love you and enjoy your day. No, we'll see you later. Okay, after itong webinar natin, Sir Jake, takbo na ako sa dinner date namin, no, ng family for her birthday. Okay, yan. Anyway, mamaya i-greet ko na lang ulit si Mrs. na. Anyway, so Sir Jake, I think kanina nabigay ko na yung opinion ko, no, yung what our session will be about. How about you, Sir Jake? What's your feel or what's your say about our session for today?
Oh yeah, Franco, good afternoon sa lahat ng mga kasama natin. Nakita ko kanina sinasabi ni Teacher Randy, she was greeting everyone, good afternoon, learning designers. No? So ito yung na-pick up natin kahapon dun sa talk ni Direct Mark Mailey. And that actually fits quite well into our discussion this afternoon. Because by knowing what computational thinking is, and by also harnessing, the power that it can bring to make student experiences, to make learning activities come alive, we design according to principles and practices of computational thinking. Alam mo, tama ka, Franco, parang nakaka-nosebleed, no? yung term na computational thinking. And many times, kasi yung speaker natin ngayon, nakatrabaho ko dati, nako, pag nagsimula yan, talagang napakagaling, no? Tsaka yung may mga terms, may mga concept siya, Franco, talagang tinatago ko na lang na nag-nosebleed. Pero pag nakikita na niya yon, she's able to explain it in a way that's very easy to follow, that's very easy to understand. And you'd find as a teacher so many applications on how computational thinking can be used in the classroom. So wag tayong ma-intimidate. Let's not be overwhelmed with a very technical term of computational thinking, and instead be excited about how we can use this quite well in our respective classrooms.
Yes, no, indeed, Sir Jake. I was actually about to say that, no, Sir Jake, no,
Uh-huh.
kasi yung stigma, pag narinig mo actually yung mga
Yes.
ganitong words, no, yung computational thinking, programming, no,
Mm-mm.
those things, no, would easily sometimes intimidate teachers and would not
Yes.
even like delve into it. Pero teachers, ito yung time now to be even more courageous, no, in exploring things. Plus, again, sabi nga ni Sir Jake, mamaya i-present ng ating speaker, no, in a more understandable way siguro yung packaging no, ng computational thinking. Pero so siguro Sir Jake, ito na yung time natin, and I think we're ready no, to introduce our speaker for this afternoon.
Yes, absolutely. For our second collab webinar between Kaagapay Teacher Support and Acad Asia, the global community of educators, we're proud to introduce to you our guest for this afternoon. She is a business operations manager and trainer at Accenture Philippines. She's motivated, Franco and dear teachers, by continuous improvement and creative transformation with the goal of maximizing, any team's potential to provide excellent service through innovative, data-driven solutions. With more than 15 years of experience in the fields of software development and IT, she is also an advocate of teaching kids how to harness technology for good, envisioning a future where strides in this field can be used to solve problems in creative and innovative ways. Nako, Franco, many kids look up to this person as their mentor when it comes to coding and programming and computational thinking. In fact, I remember in the school that we worked in, students aspire to be programmers because of her. Alam mo yon, gusto nila i-pursue sa college and even careers after ang maging computer programmer or computational thinker because of the because of the type of example that she sets to them, no? She was the former vice principal of iAcademy, where she helped drive both its PBL or yung project-based learning approach and the senior high school software development program. So pag may graduate ng senior high ng iAcademy na software development, Franco, pag dumaan dun sa guest speaker natin, ako, alam nating magaling talaga yan. No? During her downtime, she enjoys reading, binging on Netflix, playing board games with her family, and geeking out with her daughter Mona, who, by the way, dear teachers, is an ambassador for Women in AI Philippines, and is also one of the very few students who got admitted to the Stanford University Online High School. And it's through Mel's guidance and, excellent and quality parenting and teaching, that has helped Mona achieve so much even at a very young age. So, bukod sa magaling na professional at guro, napakahusay din, no, na magulang ng guest speaker natin. And in that downtime, she geeks out with her daughter over the latest trends in robotics and artificial intelligence. So, huwag na natin patagalin, Franco, our guest for today, someone I really look up to. When I run out of solutions to problems, nako, ito yung tinatakbuhan ko, Franco. Let's all welcome Miss Mel Obedoza. Hi, Mel. Welcome to Kaagapay and Acad Asia Collab.
Hi, Jake. Hi, Franco. And likewise, I look up to Jake just as much, apparently, as he looks up to me. Okay, let's see if I remember all of that. First of all, happy birthday, Mommy Jinky. And apparently, I am in pressure today to make sure that Franco gets home in time. And equally, I have equal pressure to make sure that hindi kayo ma-nosebleed. So, teachers, good afternoon. Thank you for joining me today. I know it's midweek. I can imagine what a long day it's been for all of you. So, my one and only goal today is to just keep this light and fun for everyone. And as Jake mentioned, somehow by the end of this session, I guarantee each and every one of you who are tuned in right now will actually know how to program and share that with your kids as well. Okay,
Thank you,
so without
Miss
further
Mel, for that.
ado,
No? And Miss Mel, maybe also no, while we are waiting for the presentation of Miss Mel in the background, okay, we'd
mhm.
also like to remind our teachers no, that the reminders about CPD matters okay, will be given at the end of the program. But maybe Miss Mel, no, before we start with your session, okay, so that our teachers just have like a footing in terms of like our session for the day. Can you just like give us like a very short overview of what will be covered for the next few hours?
Okay, so we'll start with an introduction to computational thinking because, as you mentioned, it's a lot of people immediately get turned off by the term alone, but it's actually far simpler than it appears to be. After that, we'll talk about why we're actually spending 3 hours talking about this particular topic, right? What's its relevance? And once we're done with that, I'll show you concrete steps on how to integrate it across any kind of subject that you teach in the K-12 curriculum. And finally, we will end with a hands on demonstration on how to use the Scratch programming tool. It's a very accessible tool. I won't say it's easy because honestly, math isn't, for some people, math isn't easy, writing isn't easy, but if you put your mind to it, it's definitely accessible. And by the end of this session, hopefully everyone will enjoy Scratch as much as I do, and your students will hopefully gain from it as well. And that's the agenda for today. So there's a lot, Franco, and I'm really excited to get started and
Yes.
cover everything in time for you to get home and celebrate your your wife's
Thank you,
birthday.
Miss Mel. Thank you, Miss Mel. No, and again, Miss Mel, good luck on your session. Teachers, do enjoy the session. We'll be in the chat not to engage with you for anything that you would need. Okay, good luck, Miss Mel.
All right, thank you. So, once again, good afternoon. And in line with my goal, when I said I'm trying to keep this as light as possible for all of you, let's start with something very simple. How many logos do you recognize on this page? There we go. And I'm actually very interested to see if any one of you could identify all of them. So if you could share on the YouTube comments, and I'm actually monitoring it on my other laptop so that I can interact with the audience. All right, thank you. So I'm seeing a lot of answers. 25 out of 7. Wow, that's pretty close. 28, 25. Okay, great. Thank you so much. I'm happy. What Jake said was right. This is a very active group, and I'm very happy about that because we're going to have a lot, hopefully, of interaction with each other as much as I can through the YouTube comments. Right. So the point that I wanted to drive here is that I'm pretty sure each and every one of you knows at least one logo on this screen. And from the looks of it, the running average seems to be about 15 to 20. And that just drives the point, right? Computer science, technology in general today is changing everything. And to drive that point further, I'd like to share a video with you. Okay, hold on. Just want to make sure I get this right. And I'm sharing the audio as well.
I think 19th century was about the Industrial Revolution, about electricity, about disrupting the agricultural society and making it more advanced. The 20th century was about physics and engineering to do more things easier in our everyday life, from refrigerators to washing machines.
How convenient.
And the 21st century is definitely the digital age. It's the internet.
Even if you want to become a race car driver or play baseball, or build a house, all of these things have been turned upside down by software.
The lettuce bot is a robot that can sense its environment. Every single hour, this lettuce bot is seeing 1.5 million plants, and it's taking individual action on those plants. We enable lettuce growers to have higher yields in their field by helping make it cheaper, by helping produce food in a more sustainable way. And that wasn't previously possible without computer science and technology.
I have a really fun job where we build Polyvore, which kind of combines all my favorite things, so programming as well as fashion and art and design and shopping. Half the products you use these days are software products that you play with on maybe your phone. And so if you want to build something cool, you need to know programming, right? And there's so many things that you can do with computer science. So if you just work backwards from the cool thing that you want to build and figure out what that is, a lot of times computer programming is part of that, right? So you should learn the skill.
It's really exciting right now. The technology that we're developing right now is going to be used by your doctor in the next decade. When you come into the office and you're sick, the doctor is going to be like, all right, spit in this cup. And I will put it into this magic machine, which is the sequencer. And in an hour, I can tell you what you have or what's wrong with you. So if we're looking for a new virus, for example, we'll download a database of all the viruses that are known. And we'll search for, our sequence of interest against a whole database of all viruses. So you still need somebody to analyze the data. The computer is not smart enough yet.
Our software helps people save energy and thereby reduce their carbon emissions. To date, we've saved over 8 terawatt hours, which is the equivalent of about 1.1 million cars on the road.
When you're forecasting the wind, there's so many different parameters that go into it. It would be impossible for a human to sit down and do all those calculations. We need a computer model in order to forecast it.
Most people don't think about technology and public safety as going together, but our software is actually changing the way that law enforcement is capturing, transferring, and managing their digital evidence on a daily basis. It turns out that when officers are wearing our cameras, they see a drastic reduction in use of force, as well as a drastic reduction in the amount of complaints being leveraged against their agency, ultimately resulting in safer communities.
The merging of art and technology is getting more and more significant now because computers and software are such an integral part of our lives day to day. People are realizing that it can be quite creative to take this medium of computers and create incredible works of art.
In Finding Nemo, when Crush and Squirt and all the friends are flying through the East Australian Current, you're seeing images of water flowing by, you're seeing the colors on the back of the turtle, you're seeing the sides of the fish. All of those things are generated through math and computer programs that we write that we then give to the artists, and they take that to create that final image and tweak it and make it look beautiful and look fun.
The crux of it is really about invention. It's about looking at the world and being dissatisfied with things and questioning everything.
I always felt like if I didn't learn how to program, it would be like not learning how to read. The future would just be closed to me.
If you're in the coding profession, there's so many things that you can do, and you can pretty much pick and choose the course you want to be in.
I think that you can start something in your college dorm room, and you can have a set of people who haven't built a big company before come together and build something that 1 billion people use as part of their daily lives is just crazy to think about, right? It's humbling and it's amazing.
Really, it's about the chance to reinvent things and then see it out there in the world and see people using it and having fun or having a better life because of something that wasn't there before that you put in the world.
All right, so there you have it. Computer science is changing everything. Let me just quickly go back to my presentation. All right, so when we think about kids and technology, right, we think games, mobile phones, apps, TikTok, videos, and how we want to actually avoid even more screen time at all costs. And then on the other side of the spectrum, you have those who think that this kind of work is only for the mathematically inclined or for the tech geniuses of the world. But today, I hope to share with you the importance of knowing that technology is far more than all of that. It is already part and parcel and integral to our everyday lives. Whether you're in medicine, entertainment, power, connectivity, even teaching, everything is driven in some way by technology. So, our goal, dear teachers, is not to teach kids how to pick up a device and use it because honestly, they can do that in spades. They beat us, right? Anytime. I'm pretty sure my daughter and all my younger nieces and nephews, they can pick up a phone and come up with features that even I didn't know how to use. They can do it much better than us adults. But the challenge is to help develop them to manage the use of technology and to be able to use it in creative ways to solve problems. And we do that through computational thinking. So now I'm quite curious, especially after that introduction given by Franco and Jake earlier. What is the first thing that you think about when you hear the words computational thinking? Do interact with me on the chat again, and I shall look forward to your answers. First thing that comes to your mind. Numbers, okay, math. I'm seeing a lot of math, numbers, everything is calculated, coding, programming, numbers, formulas, mathematical problems, estimation. All right. So good to know that you guys are actually pretty much on track. And I'm quite pleased to see that I haven't seen anybody here say nosebleed or that it's something very difficult or unreachable. So I think we're in a good place and we're in a good place to move forward. So once again, tonight, my goal is to demystify and show you just how accessible computational thinking can be in the K-12 classroom and maybe even have a little fun with it. We'll start with an introduction on what it actually is, again, the relevance, on why it's important, especially in line with what is known as the fifth industrial revolution. And then towards the tail end, this is where it gets a little bit brain busting for you guys. So I hope you can hold on. This is where I actually show you how you could apply these concepts in your lessons, no matter what subject you teach. And then we'll move on to Scratch programming language, where I'll give you a demo and hopefully you'll be able to follow along. And we'll end with a Q&A. And right, let's get started and let's have some fun. So, what is computational thinking? A lot of what you put in the chat was actually right. It's math, it's numbers, it's calculation, it's critical thinking. But before that, I'd like to tackle two concepts that usually come to mind when somebody says computational thinking: programming and computer science. So, let's just get that out of the way. When we say programming, this is actually the practice of developing a set of instructions. So, programming, in its simplest definition ever, is telling the computer what to do. It's giving it a set of instructions that your device or computer can understand so that it can solve problems. Programming, more often than not, is usually interchanged with the term coding. Now, what about computer science? Computer science is the study of computers, algorithmic processes, including their principles. And when you say algorithmic processes, this is where programming comes in. So algorithms are steps to solve a particular problem, and you do that by programming the steps that the computer will do. However, computer science isn't just all about programming. It also includes a lot of principles around hardware design, software design, and far more recently and importantly, it's a good thing that they've started going in this direction as well. Computer science has been dealing a lot lately with the ethics of the digital tools that we use, the ethical implications of things like robotics and artificial intelligence. So all of that is now focused on the study called computer science. So what then is computational thinking? computational thinking is actually simpler than programming and computer science. It is just a way of solving problems and designing systems. And you do it by getting concepts fundamental to computer science. So that's why it's interconnected, because the way that you solve problems using computational thinking follows the same principles that you would use to create algorithms to solve problems in computer science. But that's just the way it is. It's a way to solve problems. So this is a fundamental skill for everyone, not just for computer scientists. Before we get into how, now that we know what computational thinking is, we're going to delve into how exactly am I going to put this in my class, especially if I'm a preschool teacher or an English teacher. I have the answer to that. But before that, we are getting into the part where it might just hurt your brain a little moving forward. So before I talk about the how, I'd like to talk a little bit more about the why and motivate you further on the importance of picking this up and making sure that across the curriculum, this becomes something integral to all of our subjects. So, once again, tickling your brains. When you see this image on the screen, what comes to your mind? Do share with me your answers on the chat again. And yes, we are already in the fifth industrial revolution, and I'll come to that in a little while. But first, very eager to see what you think about when you see this kind of image. Artificial intelligence, yes. Digital, cyborg. Assistant, I love that. Oftentimes, when people look at this, there's usually that connotation where robots are evil, they'll take over our jobs. The sci-fi movies will even tell you they'll take over the world. But I really love that point in the comment that said assistance. At the end of the day, that's what these tools are here for. That's why we invented all these devices, to help us to solve problems, not to take over the human race. Okay, robotics, Android, all right. I think we're good to move forward. So yes, we are now in the fifth industrial revolution. You might have heard of the fourth industrial revolution, which was all about artificial intelligence. I see you guys commenting that on the chat, so it's good to know that you're up to date on that topic. Fourth industrial revolution also covers concepts like big data, Internet of Things. However, when people brought fourth industrial revolution to the table, it came with the fear that technology will take over people's jobs. What's going to happen now to what's going to happen to us? Are robots going to take over the world eventually? And that's where fifth industrial revolution now came into play. Fifth industrial revolution seeks to foster a more balanced working relationship between the technology and the human. So if you remember earlier in the video about how computer science is changing everything, one of the lines there that really strikes a chord with me was when it was said for that sequencer, that the sequencer still needs a human. It's not smart enough yet. All of these devices, all of these technology, even when we talk to them and they respond back to us, behind that was a developer who created that technology and who programmed it in a certain way. So robots aren't here, devices aren't here to pit themselves against us. They're here because we created them. And because of that, we would like to envision a world instead where we see not robot domination, but robot collaboration, human and robot collaboration. And in order for us to do that, in order to prepare our kids for that kind of future, they need to have the tech savvy know how on how to apply their creativity and how to apply as well their own thinking, right? So it's important for kids not just to know how to use technology, but to know how to apply it in creative ways for the good of mankind. And I'd like to share, please bear with me, I'd like to share one more video with you guys because I think it might be more believable coming from this particular person.
This week, I'm proud to join the students, teachers, businesses, and nonprofit organizations taking big new steps to support computer science in America's schools. Learning these skills isn't just important for your future, it's important for our country's future. If we want America to stay on the cutting edge, we need young Americans like you to master the tools and technology that will change the way we do just about everything. That's why I'm asking you to get involved. Don't just buy a new video game, make one. Don't just download the latest app, help design it. Don't just play on your phone, program it. No one's born a computer scientist, but with a little hard work and some math and science, just about anyone can become one. This week is your chance to give it a shot. And don't let anyone tell you you can't. Whether you're a young man or a young woman, whether you live in a city or a rural area, computers are going to be a big part of your future. And if you're willing to work and study hard, that future is yours to shape. Thanks, everybody.
All right. So one of the things that I actually wanted to point out there was that video was shared a decade ago, 10 years ago. Other countries such as Japan, Singapore, and even Malaysia, they already have robotics and AI as part of their primary school curriculum. I was shocked when I learned that, but it's true. If you look it up, these countries, in as early as elementary school, robotics and artificial intelligence are already part of the core curriculum of their students. So we as a country, we have a lot of catching up to do. And just so that everyone is on the same page, I'd like to remind you before we move forward that the end goal is, again, not just to provide access to digital devices. We want to develop the skills so that our students can use these tools for heightened learning, critical thinking, and self-expression. This means that students must now move beyond just consuming information. And as the video said earlier, we want them to not just play a video game. We want them to be the ones to create it someday. We want them not just to download apps and watch videos, but we want them to be involved in the design of these things. And this is something that is very much possible with your cooperation. Computer science doesn't need to be hard, rather. I'm not going to say it isn't hard, but it doesn't need to be hard. As long as we start kids at an early age, and that's where you, dear teachers, so I'm very happy for all of you who are joining me today and are taking an interest in this topic, because really, it's up to you guys to take up the mantle, push for computational thinking, and make sure that the students today are prepared for the future that is unknown. Some key points. Young children can master computational thinking at an emergent level. However, early childhood education principles will always come into play. This means that we always must rely on tools and approaches that are developmentally appropriate for young learners. I'm not expecting us to just go around and start teaching Python or Java or some obscure programming language to our kids, right? Especially at the preschool level. No, that's not the way we're going to do it. There are lessons, there are activities, and there are tools developed already for each age, for each grade level. Lastly, and the most important, early exposure to computational thinking prevents stereotypes and ensures that all young children have equal opportunities to develop their digital literacy. This, honestly, is my advocacy and my goal when I host this kind of workshop. I would dearly love to have a kind of environment someday where the kids who are tech savvy, who are trying to make a difference and trying to use technology to do so, aren't seen by their peers as geeks or freaks or weirdos or savants and technically people who you shouldn't or probably won't get along with because they're way up there and I don't think I can reach them. We have to get rid of that way of thinking. And the way to do that, the way to foster a community where we can continue to develop more and more of these kids who have an interest in technology, is to make it standard, is to make it the norm, to create that kind of feeling that when I walk into a school, it's normal for me to see people to see kids on their laptops, on their phones, not watching videos, but creating something and sharing it with their friends. That is something I would dearly love to see in our schools someday. Okay, so I hope that has convinced you that we have a mission, right? Now, we know we have a mission. What exactly does it entail? Very simple. All you need to do is to remember these 4 foundational skills: abstraction, algorithmic thinking, decomposition, and pattern recognition. Again, they sound a bit way out there, but by definition, honestly, these things are some of the most easiest things to adapt. And contrary to what you might think, a lot of you, I would believe, are already adapting computational thinking in your classes without knowing it. So let's start with abstraction. Abstraction means looking at relevant and important details only. It means it's abstract. I don't need to know the details of things that are extraneous, of things I don't need to understand. I will chip away at all this data before me. And this is very important right now, especially, I don't know about you, but one of the challenges I've had when I was teaching, and even now when I'm training people, is maintaining their focus, right? And one way to maintain focus is to chip away at the noise, at all the data. There's a lot of data around in the world now. There's a lot of data and information being thrown your way every single day. So the important thing is now to teach our kids how to focus on what is really important in order to solve the problem or in order to deal with the topic at hand. For preschool students, this could start with a simple instruction to sort buttons based on a particular category that you give them. You can tell them to do it by color, by number of buttonholes, or by shape. This way, they're learning their preschool lessons, but at the same time, they are also learning to focus on the instruction that is given to them. And that is abstraction. Next, algorithms. Again, sounds so complicated, but honestly, algorithm just means coming up with a solution to a problem and doing it by coming up with very concrete steps and sequencing. Sequencing is very important in algorithms because in algorithms, there will always be a starting point and an ending point and a concrete set of steps how you get from the start to the end in order to solve a problem. This is a very important concept if you do actual programming. But even second graders taking an English class can already put to practice the concept or the skills you need to develop algorithms by putting together parts of a story or maybe even a comic strip to make it more fun for them in the correct order. This way, they get to identify key images and words, and they figure out what are the operational hinges pointing to a specific sequence in order to get to the right story from beginning to end. Next is decomposition. And this is something that I love and I apply in every nature of my work and in everything that I do. I've also found that this has been very helpful in stress management. So if you have students who are easily stressed, and even you, dear teachers, if you're easily overwhelmed, then this is a skill that might be something cool to pick up. This is simply the ability to break things down into smaller, manageable parts. And the way you would do it as teachers is to present a complex problem to your students and guide them through scaffolding on how they can break it down into smaller problems that they can tackle one at a time until finally they solve the overall problem. So again, putting it in the context of other subjects such as English and literature, after reading a book, a first grade student might be asked to decompose the storyline and identify the beginning, the middle, and end. And from there, you can it would be easier for them now to identify the parts of the story such as the introduction, rising action, climax, falling action, and resolution. And you do that by a simple thing that we call decomposition. If nothing else, I hope this is one key takeaway that you take with you and foster with your students. And lastly, we have pattern recognition, which is, just as its name implies, finding similarities and trends. And this is important as a skill because it's what helps students, especially, and not just students, um, even people in careers now, even adults, right? If you have this skill of identifying patterns, then you would be able to go through data and use it to you would be able to see trends and use it to forecast. And today you'll be hearing a lot of terms like data driven work, data driven technology. Everything is driven by data because finally the data is there, it's all there. It's just about how can we use this data, how can we use data, for example, to see what's the situation of COVID all over the world. Where is it safe for us to travel? What's the pollution index in the different cities around me? If I have a health problem, then what are the places that I might like to avoid? And if I was someone working in, say, a local government unit or a nonprofit, then where would where can I begin to solve problems related to climate change based on the data that I am seeing? This, all of these can be developed by a simple skill of being able to determine patterns and know what comes next after a pattern. So, as early as kindergarten, you might want to ask your students to draw a tree at different times of the year. I think this is more applicable for students who live in countries with 4 seasons. So, let me change that up a little. You could have them draw what the moon looks like every night. And then from there, eventually, they'll start to see a pattern of how the moon changes and then goes back to a certain shape or a certain form. So, just to review again, I've said a lot, but at the end of the day, if you want to integrate computational thinking in your subjects, it's as simple as remembering these 4 things: abstraction, or the ability to chip away at things that are not important and just focus on the key details; algorithmic thinking, which sounds really difficult, but really it just means coming up with detailed steps to solve a problem; decomposition, my favorite one, breaking down something that seems impossible to solve, but when you break it down and share it across, suddenly it becomes manageable and you're able to tackle or to solve big problems. And lastly, pattern recognition. Just really figuring out the patterns and trends in data, in colors, in numbers. A lot of games have this particular skill, which is why a lot of gamers actually find it easy to transition to programming. So that's me also promoting gaming. It's not. I know a lot of parents, especially, would like to limit gaming and screen time, but I'm one of those who would also advocate for gaming in moderation. Okay, so I hope that gave you some light on the 4 skills on how you might actually integrate this into your lessons. I hope that gave you some ideas. But just to recap one more time, putting it all together, and don't worry, I promise I'll go back and I'll give even more examples for you on how you can apply all of this at every grade level and for different kinds of subjects. But first, just to make sure that we're not getting lost, computer science is all about the studies of computer and algorithmic processes. Computing is any activity or area of study that leverages computational methods, models, or systems, such as information management, computer engineering, artificial intelligence, data science, entertainment, media, and more. So, computing basically just encompasses everything: computer science, programming, and even this little area that we are tackling today, known as computational skills. So again, computational skills, there are the 4 foundational skills: abstraction, algorithmic thinking, pattern recognition, decomposition. Some studies that you will see online will also include selecting tools and debugging, but these are more technical in nature. Just very quickly, selecting tools is all about choosing the right tool when you are trying to solve a problem, and debugging is when you're programming and coding and you have an error. how would you now fix and retest in order to solve that problem? So let's not worry about those two. It's enough for you to implement the 4 foundational skills. Once those skills are in place at a foundational level, then your students can start to apply them into these computational practices, such as abstraction, data practice, and computational modeling. And I'm sorry, that's automation, not abstraction. So in automation, this is where students start to create their own apps. They start to automate. Maybe they could make an app to help manage their time, or an app to check on the nutritional value of the food that they're eating. I know it sounds complicated, but it's actually quite doable. And I've seen high school students manage apps such as that. Data practices, this is the skill to be able to get data, right? There's so easy for us to get data now online, but this skill enables one to actually pick up that data and put it in useful visuals. Computational modeling, so this is where your students might start to simulate things. For example, they could simulate how state of matter could change as temperature rises or falls. And they could also simulate the movement of molecules for each type or state of matter. And all of these, as complicated as it sounds, if your students had the foundational skills at an early age, and if they were exposed to the tools, the very accessible tools that they can use to do all of these things, then I guarantee you, as early as junior high, maybe even earlier, because I've seen kids do amazing things as early as 10 years old, 12 years old, they can already create their own apps and start to develop and transform a different kind of future for us. All right, so showing you now concrete examples on how to integrate it across the different levels and across different subjects. So at the pre-kinder to grade 2 levels, this is where we focus more on the foundational skills itself, the composition, abstraction, pattern recognition. And you can see here you have the subjects and the symbols, right, for each of those skills. So for example, for art, it could be the simple task of creating a large object out of Play-Doh and breaking it down into smaller steps. So you would teach your lower school students how to create an animal, say, out of Play-Doh by teaching them first how to create the head and then the body and then the ears and the arms and putting it all together. Or for math, you could use dice to select an action or a sound to make. So when you roll a dice and this number comes up, then this is an action that you take, right? So something as simple as that. But with that kind of instruction, you already teach them how to follow steps. And that helps to develop algorithmic thinking. For English, you could put the plot of a story in the correct order, similar to our example earlier, and that teaches pattern recognition. Once these foundational skills are in place at this age, you move on now to the primary school years. You have your grade 3 to 5, in some would call this the middle school years. So here now is where they start to put those skills into practice, and they use this with accessible tools such as Scratch. And later I will be demonstrating to you how you can learn Scratch and how you could eventually teach your kids how to use Scratch as well. And once they know how to use these tools, sky's the limit. They can use it to compose a song, to collect and analyze data, to create programs, games, and all of these things, they can be applied anywhere. They can create interactive art for art. They can create interactive stories or games for English. They can create programs to calculate areas, perimeters, or anything you'd want them to create, right, for your math subject. For science, admittedly, math, science, and Scratch, they just go so well together, because the animation that you can do in Scratch can do wonders for simulation projects. And even in social studies, you can develop stories of different historical perspectives using data from primary sources and just put it out there in Scratch. One good example I know of this is sometime you might want to visit Code Club Australia. They promote a lot of Australian heritage through their Scratch projects. And it's very interesting how they do that. I love how creative they can be with their Scratch projects. So at the preschool to grade 2, you've developed their skills. Grade 3 to 5, you started introducing them to Scratch and made them do simple programs. Once they're at that level, honestly, again, sky's the limit, especially for kids today, because again, all you have to do is to point them in the right direction and they can pick up any technology and learn it on their own. So once they have the skills, once they have the foundation for programming and Scratch, picking up Python or next level programming, creating Android apps is going to be a snap for them. And they can do it as early as grade 6 and 12 and be able to create all of these projects that you see here. They can even start to do statistical analysis in math, because in programs such as Python, all that takes is importing a library and calling the appropriate function to run a statistical analysis on something. You don't even have to know the math behind it. It's abstracted. And even better, because of the push now for coding and computational thinking across the world, across the curriculum, there's a lot of resources available online where you don't even have to create these things from scratch. And later I can show that for you. Sorry, from scratch, I mean you don't have to create it by yourself from nothing. You can pick up a program that already exists and you can decode and remix it so that you don't have to learn programming from the very beginning, right? I couldn't expect that also out of you as art teachers, English teachers, math teachers, science teachers. Definitely, that's not something that you would need to know. But you could at least have the skills to learn how to use tools such as Scratch, which emulate programming, and that you can share with your students and maybe even create games and apps of your own. Who knows? Okay, so I'm about to move on now to the actual demo. But before that, just checking really quickly on the chat. I think you guys are still all with me, so that's good to know. Right. Before I move on to the demo of Scratch, I'd like to show you again one more video. This one now shows how teachers all over the world, teachers just like you, have been using Scratch for their own purposes. Okay, hold on. I am just looking for... there we go. All right, here we are. I'll
Scratch
play
is
the
a
video.
programming language used by students of all ages to code their own stories, animations, and games. And educators around the world are using it in all sorts of ways.
So when I think about kids interacting with Scratch, it's not only about them learning how to code and the logical thinking skills that go into it. It's about them finding a different way to share their voice.
Children, they live with a lot of stories. Give them Scratch. Those stories and those ideas and experiences that they have is what they will start to put down on Scratch. And you see the energy coming.
小学校4年生の授業をやったことがあります。テーマは、子どもたちに任せたんで、アニメーションみたいなのを作る子もいれば、ゲームを作る子たちとかもいました。
So we've done projects around what the year 2050 might be. And what we wanted to see is what really matters to them. What do they think is important?
Tenemos otro que se llama Jardín Botánico de las Mariposas. Es el ciclo de la mariposa y los niños hacen los sprites, ellos los dibujan, ellos los animan, ponen los mecanismos robóticos y crean sus propias mariposas de tela que traen de su casa.
There's a number of different things that learners are gaining from doing Scratch. It gives them confidence. It helps them take the big problem, break it down into the small parts, experiment, fail. It's all of those great parts of Scratch that can be applied to any other challenge that comes their way.
If you want your students to express themselves using coding, try Scratch.
Okay, so there you have it. Let's. All right, so teachers, are you still with me? Let me feel you in the chat box, please, or in the comments of YouTube. Kaya pa? Before I move on to the actual demo. Okay, thank you for that. So, sharing screen now. Okay, I am waiting. There we go. So, I'm pretty sure during the pandemic, you guys picked up some new skills. Some of you might have picked up cooking. Some might have picked up crafts. I tried to develop materials and sell it on Teachers Pay Teachers. I'll admit it. Some of you might have heard of that site. And one of the things that I came up with is, as Jake mentioned earlier, I'm a big fan of project-based learning. So I came up with something called project-based coding. And after this session, I will be sharing this material with Jake and his team for him to share it with you guys. So I'm giving this to you for free. This is a complete guide to a Scratch project that you could do, and it's meant for teachers and students who are using Scratch for the very first time. So this is called project-based coding. Let's build a zoo. It uses Scratch. It's a programming language, and I'll show you later how that works. Using Scratch, you'll be able to create your own interactive stories, games, animations. Sky's the limit. Before we begin, let's review first the coding process. So when people talk about coding and programming, they immediately think I'm going in front of a computer and typing, right? Typing out the code, the instructions. But honestly, that's not how it works. Coding is a process, and quite a bit of it, if done correctly, can be done offline or unplugged. So you don't have to worry about giving your students too much screen time when you ask them to do this. In the coding process, you actually start first with plan or understanding the problem, design, thinking of a solution, build, that's when you actually code the application, test, it's when you check your work and share it with friends and get their feedback, and deploy is when you actually are happy with your work and share it already for the whole world to use. So included here is a project plan. This is something just to help guide your students and keep them in check. This is to help with their focus, right? To know that they have to do plan first before they move to design, then build, then test. And this is a way also for you as teachers to check that they went through all the steps. Okay, so first, let's understand the problem. Oh no, Mrs. Grady's class trip has been canceled because of COVID-19. Again, I made this in the pandemic. Her students were looking forward to visiting the zoo and learning about animals from all over the world. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, will be to use Scratch, a free block-based programming language, to create a virtual zoo so that the students can still have fun learning about animals without leaving their homes. You will create a Scratch project featuring different animals from one part of the zoo: the farm, jungle, underwater. And when a student clicks on an animal, it will share facts about itself. Before you start on the project, so there are questions here that the students must answer by discussing with their teacher or with their fellow students. This will help them, again, to focus and get rid of irrelevant details, abstraction, right? They will answer first questions like, how many animals are they supposed to feature? How many facts should they share about the animal? Because I've had students who would research like one fact, but then I would have those students who would research up to 100 facts if I let them loose, right? So we have to ground them also and say that, oh, maybe just 2 to 3 facts is enough. what kind of facts are the students interested in? Is it size, lifespan, habitat, eating habits? And then the thing I love about anything project-based is that it's very open to the students' creativity. And I leave two, I always leave two questions here for the students to ask themselves so that it becomes something relevant to them. And it helps also develop their critical thinking skills, not just to follow instructions, but to try to think about the problem themselves and see where they would like to go with it. So after they come up with all of those answers, right? After they do their research and after they talk to their teacher and decide on the scope, just one animal, two facts maybe, then they can start to design their solution. What will they name their exhibit? So again, we're not coding yet. We're still on paper, right? It's important to get the planning and design right. If you go right ahead and just program, then the chances of you making a mistake or doing something you weren't meant to do are big. So always start with a clear plan and design. How would you describe your exhibit? What kind of animals do you want to feature? And then here we have research. So this is where they put the actual facts that they gathered about the animals. And very important at the end is to always cite their sources. Where did they get their facts? Okay, after that, we move on now to actually coding. Once again, bear with me, I will stop sharing because finally we will move now to Scratch. All right, I'm sharing the Scratch website and just waiting for it to appear on my other laptop, which is there. I'm following myself. Okay, there we go. It's out. So to go to MIT Scratch, it's just scratch.mit.edu. And again, don't worry, I'll be sharing the entire material for you. So earlier, we were going through a PDF guide and everything I'm showing to you right now is there step by step with screenshots. So just kick back, relax, and just watch this demo. Follow along if you'd like to try to follow along. I'd be very happy if you could. But if not, just feel free to watch and you don't have to worry. All the material will be shared with you later on. So to do Scratch, you go to scratch.mit.edu, or honestly, I'm terrible at memorizing. So I just go to Google and I put MIT Scratch and it leads me to this website. You click on Create, very simple. It's loading. All right. There will always be a default character there, which is the cat. And just to give you an idea, so this is Scratch. It is a visual programming language. That means that instead of typing the commands are all here on the left side. And they're color-coded and they're put into categories, so it's easy for you to find them. And it's as simple as if I want the cat to move, then I drag the command here and I click on it and he moves. If I want him to move 100 steps or 200 steps, then I put 200 steps here and I click it and he moves 200 steps. If I want him to move back to the middle, then I'll make it negative 200. And there you have it. He's back in the middle. So it's that simple. The commands are here. Just tell Scratch what you want your character to do. And once you click on play, it's the green go button here, the green flag, then it will do everything. All the instructions that you put here will be executed step by step. It's that simple. Okay, so for our project, maybe not a cat. Let's look for another animal. So to add a sprite, you just go here. It says choose a sprite. If you click on it, there's a lot already of existing things here that you can play around here. And look, animals. So let's work with a bear. Okay, there. So I have my bear. I'll just move him there to the middle. And let's give the bear a home. So teachers, honestly, and I'm sorry to admit this, but I suck at science. So can somebody help me out here? What's a good habitat for a bear? So I don't think we see them in the beach. I think it should be a white bear if it's Arctic. Should I choose maybe forest? Forest, yes, there. Thank you, thank you. Okay, so we choose a backdrop, and there you have it, a bear in the forest. Now, what we wanted was for the bear to share facts about itself. So first, we go to events. This is the very first thing that you will do for all your Scratch projects. You have to drag here when the green flag is clicked, because that means when the program starts. So when the program starts, I want the bear to say something. So I will go here to looks. And again, don't worry, all of this is in the guide that will be shared with you. Under looks, you have say hello for 2 seconds. So I'll just drag that here. And when I click the green button, then the bear says hello for 2 seconds. So now what we wanted to do was to share some facts about the bear. So again, to my science teacher friends out there, can you please share 2 very simple facts about the bear on the YouTube channel? And I will code it. So I can start with, I live in forests or caves, apparently, if I'm understanding you guys right, I hope. So when I click here, it'll say, I live in forests or caves. And your kids might not be able to read that fast, so you might want to increase this to 5 seconds, as easy as that. Okay, let's have one more fact, please. So do share any fact about bears. My eyes are now glued to the YouTube chat. They are mammals, okay. So we put here again another command, and he will say, I am a mammal. I hope I got that right. Really? So that's true. I thought that was just a Winnie the Pooh thing. They actually do like honey. Okay, I like honey. And somebody said, I eat honeybees. All right, so I am a mammal, pretty short. Let's leave it at 2 seconds. And maybe this, let's put it at 3 seconds. Okay, so when I click here, there you have it. I live in forests or caves. 5 seconds. So let's wait 5 seconds. I am a mammal. I like honey, and I eat honeybees. And there, as simple as that, your students will have made their very first Scratch programming language, or their first Scratch program. Now, what can you do with this? Remember, the problem statement was we wanted to create a virtual zoo. And just thinking about that, that seems to be like a very big problem to tackle on your own. But if you have a class of 30 students and you assign an animal to each student, then theoretically you will now have 30 programs just like this featuring different animals. And what you could do now is to open a Google Doc sheet and share the link. So in order to publish this, you just click share. Everyone knows how to share, right? Share photo, share video. So it's the same thing here, just share. And ask your students now to share with you the link to their project. Once you have the link to the project, then you can now put this in a Google Doc, right? And then kids can just start clicking on the links and seeing all the different animals around the zoo. Now, I'll take it a step further. Hold on. I just need to stop sharing. I hope this works because I have Canva open on another page, but I will try to open another one here. And let's see how to create. I love Canva, to be honest. I don't know if anybody, I know we're all teachers here, but in case there's somebody working for Canva here and would like to give me like a pro access for plugging in Canva, I would really appreciate it. But yes, I really love Canva, and that's no joke. So I open the blank Canva, and I am sharing again. All right, I'm just waiting for it to show up on the YouTube screen. Yes, Canva. Canva is love, people. There we go. Okay, so instead of just sharing links on a Google Doc, right? One way to make it look really awesome to your students is to go to Canva and to search for Zoo or maybe even Zoom app, right? Because Canva just amazes me. Sometimes I think I won't find anything related to what I need, but it's actually here. And lo and behold, it does have a Zoom app. So we put the Zoom app here. We get that big. You could feel the entire thing. There you go. And then we worked on a bear earlier, so let's find the bear. And I think those of you who know Canva might guess where I'm going with this, but let's continue on. So I can put a bear here. And then what I can do now is instead of sharing the links via Google Docs, I can put the link to the Scratch project here so that I can now download this PDF file, share it with my students, and instead of clicking on links, they can actually click on the animals and be redirected to the Scratch project where the bear, the cat, the horse, the shark, whatever you have in your zoo will start talking to you and give facts about itself. All right, so I hope you enjoyed that very short demo, but wait, we're not quite done. I still have a few things that I'd love to share with you. So you might be thinking that, okay, Mel, that was great, but that was really simple. All we did was to teach an image to talk on Scratch, and there's a lot more we can do in Scratch. That's true. But there's also a lot that you could do with those simple steps that we did. For example, and bear with me because I'll have to share twice just to show you where I'm going with this. So first, I'd like to show you one of the references. And again, all of these I will be happy to share after this workshop. I'll share my entire presentation, the material that I use, and all these references with you. So as I mentioned earlier, there's a lot of resources on the web, including this, which has Scratch projects for all subjects. And one thing that I wanted to feature is the one on parts of a flower. So I'm opening it up. And excuse me because I have to share again. Please bear with me. There we go. Okay, so this is a project called Parts of a Flower. And the way it works is as I hover over the different parts of the flower, it tells me what it is, and it tells me something about it. So very similar to the project that we did earlier. And again, patterns and algorithms. So the project that we did earlier, those simple steps of putting something on Scratch and getting it to say something can be further, you can tweak it further to create a program like this, just using those simple instructions. And the best thing about Scratch is that there is a remix functionality, which means that any project shared on Scratch, you can actually open up for your own account and you will see the code and you can start messing around with the code on your own. So this is the code for this particular project. Now, calm down. I know what some of you might be thinking. You might be thinking, Mel, this is a whole lot more than what you showed us earlier. So once more, the composition, guys. Let us break down what we learned earlier. Earlier, we learned that this command, when the flag is clicked, is just to tell it that you want it to do these commands when the green flag is clicked or when the program starts. We know what these two commands are, say, right? This just makes whatever is on your screen say the words for this number of seconds. So we already know what this and these two things mean. That just leaves a few more commands that we need to pick up. Forever, as the word implies. So sa computer programming may forever, buti na lang. Forever just means that it will always do the commands that you put within forever. What does that mean? If I don't put forever here, then when I click the green flag, that means that it won't be able to pick it up, because what it did was to go through all of these instructions a total of 1 time. So if your cursor wasn't there to begin with, then you missed that opportunity. So what we want to do is to put forever. So I'm dragging this out. You put it there forever so that for the entire time that your program is running, it's always checking for all of these commands that come after. It's always running these commands. The next command now is just checking what color are you touching. So if I'm touching pink, then I'm touching the petal. If I'm touching green, then I'm touching sepals. Sorry, I'm really bad at this. And if I'm touching, I guess this is orange, then that's pollen. Okay, so there. Right. So you have the commands here. Oh, sorry. One last thing. Go to X mouse Y. This just says that this pointer goes to wherever you're moving your mouse, right? So it just follows you. That's all that it means. Okay, so now that I have this open, what does it mean to remix, right? When you remix, it means I have this program, it works, but maybe I can play around with it, or I can even ask my students to add something else to it. So for example, let's add a butterfly. There, I'll put a butterfly here. I'll go back to this code. And what we are going to do now is to copy the same logic patterns, right? So events, and again, it's color coded. So this helps you know where you need to look for that command. So I will get this one. And then forever is orange. So it's here under control. Then you get the if condition. So if, and then there's an empty space there, and it's colored aqua, I guess. So you get touching color, right? And then here's the fun part. You just click on the color. Sorry about that. And then there's an eyedropper here. So you might be familiar with eyedropper for those of you who use Word or Paint or anything in Microsoft Office. You click on the eyedropper and you choose the color, right? So let's choose this color specific to the butterfly. Okay, once I have that color, let's just make sure I got that right. There, it's green. Okay. Then make it say, okay, I am a butterfly. Right, so now, here, there. Now, I am a butterfly. And if I wanted to add more facts, then I can just drag this and say more things about the butterfly. All right, so I hope that was useful for you. Yes, just to answer some questions, although I know we have Q&A later, but to answer this immediately and to put your mind at ease, yes, Scratch is free. Yes, there is a way for you to download and use it offline, and for your students to use it offline, so they don't have to be on the internet all the time. Okay, so while you are digesting that, I shall go back to my presentation. I hope it's still alive on the other Canva window. Oh, wow, it is still alive. Okay. All right. So again, no worries. I'll be sharing this later on. Here you will find links to more examples of existing Scratch projects across different subjects and grade levels, shared by teachers such as yourself. So I hope, teachers, that you do pick these up, maybe learn Scratch on your own. There are a ton of Scratch tutorials and resources on the Scratch website itself, right? And the link is right here. And once you learn how to do this, and I'm pretty sure you guys and your students will do amazing things with this, I hope you can consider sharing it with other teachers as well and keep building this community of resources so that we help each other all over the world across all levels, any kind of student, any kind of teacher, any subject. I'll also include here references to computational thinking itself and how it's used in K12 for your additional reading pleasure. And finally, I'd like to leave with some final thoughts. I also picked this up in the course of my research, but this just struck a chord with me, so I'd like to share it with you word for word. In today's technology-rich world, many schools have begun teaching coding, the language that we use to instruct today's computers. But the risk is that we will again be teaching students today techniques to solve tomorrow's problems. By the time today's students graduate, by the time your students graduate, what kind of tech will be out there, right? The technology, the techniques, the languages we use today might already be obsolete. So don't focus on teaching them programming, coding, and the language itself. Instead, focus on computational thinking that underpins all of these techniques, these tools, these technologies, so that our students can use these to shape the technologies of tomorrow. And on that note, thank you very much for joining me today, and I'll now open the floor to questions. I see someone already downloaded Scratch. I'm so happy.
Much, Miss Mel, no, maraming salamat for introducing us Scratch. By the way, no, si Scratch medyo familiar sa akin kasi ginagamit namin sa Xavier School, no. Isa yun sa mga programs na naka-download na sa mga devices ng mga students namin, and I think we use that for both for grade school actually and high school, no. So tama
Yes.
si Miss Mel, no. Hindi siya like for higher levels lang, even the younger students no, can actually use it, no. Although at honestly, no, nung una ko siya ma-encounter, medyo nakakahilo siya. Pero if you sit down with it, no, and try to tinker with it, no, you can actually try to figure it out. Okay? And yun na nga, nagre-request na mga teachers natin, Miss Mel, no, ng full walkthrough daw ng Scratch. So, pag-iisipan po namin, titignan namin yung schedule, teachers. Okay? Pero sabi nga namin, no, medyo malambot kasi at marupok ang KTS nyo at saka Accredited no, sa pagtugon sa mga request ng mga teachers natin. Okay? So, Jake?
Yes, Franco, also it helps a lot that we learned about the foundational skills for computational thinking, no? Yung apat na shinare ni Mel kanina, yung abstraction, algorithmic thinking, decomposition, pattern recognition. May mga terms pala yun, no, Mel? Because we're using in classrooms, right?
Yes, you already use it.
Right, now that we know what they mean, what they're for, we can be more purposeful, right? We can be more deliberate in designing our lessons according to the principles, according to the foundational skill. So thank you very much, Mel, for sharing these with our teachers.
Yung totoo no, Sir Jake, no, na I really love how it was like really simplified, no, and actually parang in a way nagkaroon ng names, no, yung mga processes na ginagawa natin sa classroom. So nakita natin it's really applicable, no, at makita natin yung computational skills na are really important, no, across different disciplines inside the classroom. Okay, ito na, may mga tanong na tayo, teachers. Okay, if you have questions, please put that in the chat, no, and Miss Mel is here to entertain and of course, no, to address your questions. Okay, this one is suggestion siguro, no, or naghumingi na suggestion from teacher Kate Fajardo. Okay, how can we use Scratch po in teaching literary pieces? Thanks po.
Okay, very interesting because just recently in my daughter's class, they were studying the Odyssey. They were asked to come up with something creative related to that literary piece. So those who were good at cooking created something Greek. Those who were good at dancing actually did an interpretative dance piece for it. So naturally, my tech-savvy daughter, she created a Scratch game that where you had to navigate. I think the part where Odysseus is trying to avoid the rocks falling from the cliffs or something. At least that's what her game was like. So that's one. You could ask them to create games related to the literary piece. Or one of my personal favorites, they can create interactive stories similar to Choose Your Own Adventure. You might have seen it in Netflix, Bandersnatch, if you've heard about that, where you control the story, you control what happens next. So that's one of the things you can do in tools such as Scratch.
Thank you. Kung hindi nyo nalalaman, si Mel is also a science fiction writer. Oo, so published din. So if you go on her stories, mababasa nyo yung mga sinulat ni Mel Obedoza.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Parang kailangan nating hanapin sa next na MIBF yan na yung
Yes.
Miss Mel.
Ang hirap
Anyway.
pag si Jake yung kasama ko rito.
Ang daming. Yan. Ito, Miss Mel, more specific, no, technical question about Scratch. You know. Okay, can we add our own graphics in Scratch?
Oh, yes, sorry. If I can quickly share screen again. Hold on. Going back to Scratch. There we go. Okay, so apologies, but yes, you can. You can draw. So there's a paint function here, and you can upload your own sprites and even your backgrounds. And if you remember earlier, I was showing you a PDF file. The instructions how to do that are written down there step by step. So don't worry, got you covered.
Thank you, Miss Mel. Okay, this one, another question. No, I think madami nang interested sa Scratch talaga. No? Nilagay ko, by the way, teachers, yung link to download Scratch. No? Okay, this one po, I think in terms of like flexibility, okay, for laptops lang po ba ang Scratch or pwede rin po sa phone?
Okay, Scratch itself is just for laptops and computers. If you want to use on a mobile device, then there's Scratch Junior, but that's really for very young kids, like preschool level. The closest thing available on an Android application would be Tinker. Hold on, let me share screen again, just so I can show you. That's Tynker. It is exactly like Scratch. All right, sharing screen again. Tinker. This is the one that is available as a mobile app. This is actually where my daughter started. I downloaded this for a tablet, and this is where she started coding before she moved to Scratch, and then she moved to Python.
Grabe yung transition ng daughter ni Miss Mel. Na? Talagang proper yung guidance na yan. Teachers, pwede, I agree kayo, no? Hindi tayo nagkakaroon ng limitations sa devices or kaya sa mga platforms. No? So marami na tayong pwedeng explore na platforms for this. Okay. Other questions, teachers? Ayan. Ito po, Miss Mel, there is like a very specific question naman for a subject area. No? Siyempre kasi pag pinag-usapan ng computational thinking, no, it's about like across different disciplines. This one is from teacher JC Flaviano. Okay, good evening, ma'am and teachers. Thus, Scratch is also an effective teaching mother tongue base for grade 1 or first grade because we are using Tagalog language.
Okay, to be honest, the instructions themselves, the commands themselves are in English, but the program that you can create can be done in any language. You can make the bear speak in any language. And to prove that point, there's actually another really good site if your students are advanced. It's called Machine Learning for Kids. And I featured that in one of my classes. And one of the earlier projects there is to train the code that when you talk to it, you will tell it to turn on or off a light. So it was teaching Internet of Things. So in order to do that, you train it with so many phrases. And one of my students said, can we train it for Filipino words? And I said, you know what? I don't know. Let's try. And we did. And funnily enough, it learned Filipino. So yes, definitely. It's an open language. Coding is very open.
Thank you, Miss Mel. No, I think ito, very quick question lang. Free po ba ang Tinker from one of our teachers, Miss Sir
Well,
Gerald Quito?
when I used it before, I remember it was free. I think there's a paid. It's like it's free to use, but if you want to download the curriculum that goes with it, then that you have to pay for. At least that's how it was. How old is my daughter? 13. About 7 years ago.
Parang ito yung tinatawag siguro nila Miss Mel na ano, freemium. Yung may free version,
Yes.
pero if you want to go up level, okay, add more features, functionalities, you'll have to pay already. No? Yung freemium. Madami ng freemium ano ngayon, yung applications. No? This one, Miss Mel, from Miss Michelle, no, what is the applicable age for kids to learn Scratch?
Oh, I love this question because there is no right answer to it. It's really once your kids know how to read, then they can program on Scratch. So if your kids are early readers, they could start as early as preschool.
Thank you, Miss Mel. Miss Mel, can I do a follow-up question on that? Because I'm interested.
Sure,
No?
go ahead.
Because when we look at like this particular skill, no, how do we sustain it? No, like example, if I'm a teacher or even if I'm a parent, no, okay, what kinds of support that I have to provide, no, and what kind of assistance do I provide for my students and my kids, no, in order to pursue this acquisition of this particular skill?
Okay, so um, once again, very deliberate. One thing that we can all help out with is again to integrate it as much as we can across all subjects in the curriculum in schools. Because if schools and our subjects ask kids to do this, then they just pick it up naturally. It's like any tech and device out there, it's something that comes easily to kids. How you can support them further if you see that they really have an aptitude for it, there's a lot of books available. Honestly, from my own personal experience, my daughter again started with Tinker, moved on to Scratch, and then I just bought her books. I didn't have to teach her Python. She learned by reading books and then picking it up on her own. And some kids I know they learn by watching videos also to just make that accessible to them. There are also a number of clubs already, after school activities. There are a number of organizations that offer after school coding classes and even competitions. It's you might have seen them in the news, but a lot of Filipino students are rocking robotics competitions all over the world, and I would love to see more students take part, not just in robotics, but also in app programming. There's a lot of competitions on how to create apps and how to ideate hackathons as early as elementary school level. There are already hackathons at a global scale. And what I love about those opportunities, it doesn't just teach them how to use the tech skills. It doesn't just teach them how to develop a love for programming. It also teaches them teamwork, how to work as a team, how to deal with stress, time pressure, how to deal with clients, judges, a particular problem that they have to solve. So these are the ways that you could support your kid. It's just like anything else that you would normally support them with. If they have an aptitude for sports, then normally you'd put them in a Milo clinic, right? So if they have if you see they have an aptitude for tech, for creating videos, then please do support them. Give them the books, the technology, the resources, and the exposure to be able to share their work.
Thank you, Miss Mel, no? Okay, teachers, alam ko madami pa tayong tanong, no, about Scratch, no? Ayan, talagang ramdam na natin, no? Miss Mel, kita niyo na influence ni Miss Mel, no? Mukhang the teachers are now soaking into using Scratch. And definitely we'll have that, no, teachers, okay? We'll schedule, okay? And hanapan po natin ng oras yan, okay? Anyway, siguro lang, Miss Mel, na mabalik lang ako dun sa computational thinking, because computational thinking, as we know it, no, is an approach in itself. Okay, it demands like integration. It demands that this particular skills, no, of programming and coding, no, be used, no, across different disciplines. But we also know that this is not like what's the norm right now. Okay, medyo rebellious nga, no, yung computational thinking approach na pagdating sa educational system. So but we know it's the 21st century demand. So if from your perspective, na Miss Mel, lalo na you also came from an administrative position, also as an educator. What are the like key steps that a
Mm.
school have to take, no, in order to pursue computational thinking approach in their schools, and ano, no, really like cultivate this culture of computational thinking?
Okay, I love that question because that's something that's been weighing on my mind a lot. And the answer is I was very happy to see when I was doing additional research on this. It's the same answer that's on the research paper. In order to do this, you need support from the administration, support from the community, of parents, of other, people who can help you in the community, right? People from tech industries were very much open to holding workshops such as this to help teachers and kids pick up coding, computational thinking, and just really put it out there because we need these skills in the industry. And there is a lack of people right now with these particular skill sets. And I hope that we can change that somewhere down the line, especially as we move forward and further into the digital age. So, again, it's really the passion and the support. You need to have an administration and the community that includes the parents, the students, the teachers. Everyone has to believe in this particular advocacy. And once you have that, then everything will just flow naturally because the resources are readily available. You want a computer science curriculum? Look it up on Google. Google created one for teachers to use. A lot of organizations have created one. Even the company I work for, Accenture, from the at the global level, they they helped create the computer science curriculum for the K to 12 levels. The tools are there: Scratch, Tinker. Python is very accessible as long as your high school students had a background already in programming. All you would need really are devices and an internet connection. And again, if you download offline versions such as Scratch, Python also has an offline version, then you wouldn't even need internet, really. You just need the computer.
Thank you, Miss Mel. Meron ako isang question na pero I'll let first Sir Jake ask a question or provide insights as well. Go ahead, Sir Jake.
Yeah, no, I love that question. But maybe Mel, what we can also share with teachers, uh, or maybe because what we want is to build that culture, right? And to get
Right.
support. So how do we communicate that? So maybe at the teachers level, right? We want stronger voices. We want more people to be championing computational thinking and the use of these things, right? So from your experience, Mel, working with teachers, with parents, and even with students, um, what do you think is a path to strengthening that voice, right? To making that voice louder and stronger for administrators to hear, so that they may come back and support whatever effort it is that we want to promote computational thinking.
Okay, two things there to hit all possible areas would be one, I would gamify it
Hmm.
because everyone just loves a good competition today. Students, even parents, right? Jake, you're a parent, admit it.
And so is
we're very
Franco.
we're very
Is super
competitive.
right,
Franco,
exactly.
agree? Yes.
Franco is super
We
competitive,
are
no?
on denial, but yes, Miss Mel.
Yes, right. So use that in a good way. Use that competitiveness in a good way. And second, show them how relevant it is. We have project-based learning. We have project-based, as I said, project-based coding, right? You can start by giving a problem out to the school for the students to solve
Mm.
using whatever they learn in their subjects and applying it to the technologies that they are starting to learn or are already familiar with. It doesn't even have to be Scratch. It can be something as accessible as creating videos, right? Because there's a step by step process also to creating a video in order to solve a problem. So once that's in place, and then you have an exhibit and you show the parents, you show the teachers, you show the community, invite your mayor, invite your local community to validate what your students are doing and to support them and maybe even get them to fund or to encourage students to pick up and pursue. I've had students who created something very idealistic in the beginning. It's just like a simple prototype made out of recycled materials, but then when they reach college levels, they're able to actually make it a reality and sell it or put it out there in the world to make a difference. And that's really the most awesome thing for me. And I hope to see more kids do that.
Let's go PBL. Ako rin, ma'am, Miss Mel,
Yes,
isa rin akong
PBL
fan.
for the win.
Okay, kasi napakaganda, napaka-authentic, long-term inquiry, yung mga aspect ng PBL that really that makes it really 21st century. Miss Mel, last question.
Sure, go ahead.
And this definitely also because I have been with our community for a long time, and time again, whenever we encounter new tools like this, new strategies, one question will always pop, in the community or in the conversation, which is on the lack of resources. And we know that education in the Philippines, ibang schools might have the resources. Okay, the one-to-one program, for example, for some schools, okay, facilitates that kind of engagement with these tools, internet connection. But we also are in a reality, that not all schools will have one device per student, okay, or even like a very strong internet connection, or even if offline, still will have the devices. So how do we mitigate that lack of resources, okay, while pursuing these kinds of 21st century approaches in education?
Hirap naman ang Miss Universe question mo. No. Honestly, the answer to that would be the community. You have to build a community. You have to start somewhere. I've often gotten some feedback because as part of my advocacy, I do hold workshops whenever I can, such as here, right? And I've heard feedback once. Somebody told me, why do you go to private schools? They already have all the resources. Why don't you go to the public schools? And I'd always say that, we're looking for digital equity, right? So, and right now, we're not seeing that. There's a lack of computational thinking and computer science in general, whether I'm in the private sector or in the public sector. And if I could build that spark, if I could start something in the private community sector, then I could convince them to help out and extend that reach to the public sector as well. And if it's okay, Jake and Franco, can I give a quick plug here for my daughter?
Sure, go ahead.
All right. So, in relation to that, my daughter and her friends have this advocacy or organization called the Purposeful Mochi. So, quickly sharing, hold on, I'll just pull up the Facebook page so you know where to find it, because I have been seeing some requests in the comments for a more detailed walkthrough on Scratch. And this is something that my daughter and her friends provide for free, especially for other kids and for public school teachers. So quickly sharing. All right, so there you have it. Sorry, I'm very proud of my daughter, so just a quick plug. Purposeful Mochi, mobilizing chibis to harness information and innovation. So that's what that means. All you have to do is to send a message to my daughter and tell her that you have a class of X number of kids. And as long as you have the devices and the internet connection, then she and her friends will schedule time with you to give you an hour of code session. If it's an adult audience, such as teachers, typically she asks me to help her out. So I'll probably be seeing you if some of the teachers would like to make a request via this website. But again, there you have it. And that's one of the ways that I can see us really building this across our country, right? No matter where we are, we have to build the community, we have to build that advocacy, and we have to get everyone to do their part so that we can have a future that's really awesome for our kids today. And I'm sure that not only as teachers, but even as parents, Jake, Franco, and all the other parents here, that's something that we would really want, right? We want a good future for our kids. And if the future is going in the digital direction, then let's make sure that we prepare our kids to be the ones to take control of technology, not the other way around.
Thank you. Maraming salamat sa napaka-inspiring and encouraging words, no, Miss Mel. No? So, tama siguro, tama din yun, no? Talagang teachers, no, we have to be driven by our goals, no? Okay. And we know we have limitations, pero again, there are always workarounds and of course, ways to actually go about it. No? Let's be more resilient, no, and persistent on our goals, teachers. Okay. So teachers, I shared, no, by the way, in the link in Facebook, in our YouTube chat, no, okay, the link to the Purposeful Mochi, the project, no, by Miss Mel's daughter. So please do check that out to find out what they can offer, no, and assist you with, no, when it comes to use of this technology. Okay. Anyway, yun, siguro, no, Sir Jake, and other questions maybe from you? Yun na yung aking last question, no?
Oh, ako naman, thank you, Mel, for emphasizing the importance of community again. Ganun din sa Kaagapay at sa Accredited. We're driven by the mission to continuously support, teachers nationwide and across countries. And teachers, yun lang talaga, no? Coming from Mel, yung spirit ng pagtutulungan, ng pakikiisa, no? Sharing resources and talents and knowledge. More than ever, ito po ang kailangan natin. Not just to be able to teach them digital literacy, but to give, our kids and the ones we're educating really a fighting chance, to be competitive, to do well in their respective fields. So thank you, Mel, for emphasizing again the importance of community. Yun lang sa akin, Franco.
Thank you, Sir Jake. No, definitely agree with that. No, yung pag-build ng community natin. We can't do this alone. Siguro yung lagi, meron kasing, siguro Miss Melden tsaka Sir Jake, if you like would agree, no, meron kasing Superman complex, no.
Yeah.
At Wonder Woman complex, no, ang ating mga teachers, no. Kasi talagang mahal yung trabaho eh.
Yes.
Kasi sabi nga natin, hindi naman talaga tayo nagpapayaman sa education, no. Talagang pumasok tayo to do something great, no. To help out, no, especially the youth, no? Okay, so minsan talaga na napupunta tayo dun sa Wonder Woman, Superman complex na yan. Okay, so let's build a community, let's help each other, no. I think Accredited, okay, and of course also Kaagapay teacher support, no, shows you, no, that what community can do, okay, if we are persistent enough. Okay, so teachers, at this point, okay, would like to request, no, let's show our appreciation to Miss Mel, no, for her time and of course expertise, no. Let's send our thanks, no, in the chat, paulanin natin, painitin natin, no, makita ni Miss Mel ang ating mga messages. Okay, by the way, Miss Mel started to share, no, her resources. We'll be curating them into a folder and we'll be sharing that, no, to also to the entire community, no, via our Facebook page. Okay. And at this point, siguro, Sir Jake, no, I'd like to request that to read the citation for our certificate of appreciation, and we'd also like to give, no, to Miss Mel, no, to show our gratitude.
Yes, Mel, once again, maraming salamat for being with us tonight, for sharing your expertise and experience on computational thinking and Scratch to our teachers all over the Philippines. So we are very honored to present to you this certificate of appreciation from Kaagapay Teacher Support and Accredited. We're awarding this to you for sharing your knowledge in the recently concluded webinar entitled Computational Thinking in the K12 Classroom, awarded today, September 28, 2022, signed by Mr. Nilesh Bhatia, our CEO and founder of Accredited, and of course, the administrator of Kaagapay Teacher Support, Franco Nicolo P. Adun. Thank you so much, Mel.
No, honestly, thank you, Franco, Jake, and to your team. This is really awesome what you're doing, and always happy to help. Thank you for helping build this community.
Thank you, Miss Mel, no? Okay. Miss Mel, in tradition lang, no, sa ating community bago mag-end ang mga sessions namin, we always end with a positive words of encouragement. And we would like to request from you, okay, like a short message to our teachers, okay, for our teachers, okay, words of encouragement.
Okay, so one thing I would really like you to take away is similar to my favorite topic earlier on decomposition. Nothing is impossible. This topic, as technical as it sounds, it's not impossible at all. It's very accessible. Just don't give up. And just really, if you put your mind to it, then that's all that you need. All the resources are there. It's very easy to follow. And again, if you need help, feel free to reach out. I'm always happy to help you. My daughter's community is always happy to help anyone who would like to have a start on coding. Other than that, that's really it. I'm very happy to have you all here. And just my final note, I guess, is to advocate again. Let's build a community. Let's continue to help each other in this and in other ways. Thank you again, everyone.
Thank you, Miss Mel. Maraming salamat po ulit, no? Of course, no, on behalf of the Kaagapay Teacher Support Committee and of course, no, from Accredited as well, okay, for your time and your expertise, no? Sana po, Miss Mel, no, hindi pa ito yung last natin and we'll see each other again here in our community. Parang may konting hint ng booking na agad, no, ang
Anytime, Franco and Jake. I love what you're doing here.
Thank you, Miss Mel, no. So, at this point, we'll now, say goodbye to Miss Mel, no, para din makapag spend na siya ng kanyang quality time with her family and daughter. No? Okay, so maraming salamat ulit, Miss Mel. Paalam po.
Thank you, Mel.
Thank you, everyone. Good night. Take care.
Ayan, Sir Jake, no?
Down.
Grabe. Grabe yung ano natin, no, yung pagtaas ng ating ano, yes, ng level ng ating engagement in our sessions, Sir Jake, no. And really what struck me nun sa session talaga is yung tama, no, Sir Jake, no, yung pag-build ng community kasi lagi talagang obstacle, Sir Jake, no. Kaya tinanong ko rin, no, kay Miss Mel, lagi talagang tanong yung resources. Like, we want to do this, wala kaming resources. Let's put that aside. We will not do that. No? So yun yung kaya lagi kong bini-bring up yan so that we can talk about it, we can discuss this, no? Kasi that's one of the that's the biggest elephant in the room when it comes to programs, Sir Jake. Tama na.
Right. So that also makes us realize, Sir Franco, na maybe ang pinaka-importanting resource natin, are the human resources that we have, di ba? Yung community natin dito, yung mga kasama nating teachers sa school, people who will champion our programs and projects. So kahit wala tayong pera, di ba? Kahit wala tayong financial or physical resources, bringing our talents and skills and ideas and knowledge together will get us through the toughest of times. And clearly, that's what we're seeing now. And we're very thankful for the teachers, no? Kasi yung mga teachers natin sa audience ngayon, Franco, eventually yan yung mga magiging speakers natin. Di ba? Sila yung matatap natin to be part of our pool of guest resource persons. And we're very excited about that.
Yes, no, tama, Sir Jake, no. Sana yun yung maging mindset and mentality natin teachers, no, na when we pursue innovations, when we pursue programs, no, for education, okay? May mga limitation definitely for resource, pero sometimes, no, kapag we are persistent enough, no, and also we are focused enough on our goals, okay? Soon enough, yung resources na would actually come in. And actually, Sir Jake, that actually becomes that's actually a reality, something true, no, for Kaagapay Teacher Support. Wala naman kaming resources, no? Okay? But we pursued, we continued, and soon enough, the resources actually come in from the community, Sir Jake.
Exactly. The most important source, di ba, of support and inspiration for everyone. Yung community talaga yan.
Yes. Tama na. Maraming salamat, Sir Jake. No? And again, Kaagapay Accreditation, and of course, Kaagapay Teacher Support are your examples of those communities. Okay? Now, so, Sir Jake, yes, maraming salamat po. No?
2 down tayo, Franco. 3 more to go. And we're learning so much, no? We're really absorbing so much, gaining new knowledge and strategies. Hindi pa tayo titigil. Nasa gitna. Eksaktong nasa gitna tayo. And not stopping us from offering more quality learning sessions for all.
Correct. So, pataas lang tayo ng pataas, saka palalim ng palalim din ng mga discussions natin. At sobrang ganda pa, Sir Jake, no, ng lineup natin. Of course, okay, sa next session natin, okay, on September 29, no, tomorrow, okay, we'll be looking at using AR and so excited din ako.
Yes. Grabe. Iba rin yan.
Anak ko, Sir Jake, no, tuwang-tuwa sa AR and VR.
Oh, okay.
Use AR and VR in an classroom setting, grabe yung motivation. Baka nga pati Sabado gusto nang pumasok ng estudyante pag ganito yung ginagamit mo, Sir Jake, di ba?
Yeah,
And
actually, yung speaker nga, Franco, may request if we can identify 10 teachers in the audience to be part of the demo tomorrow. So we'll just work out the details, no, Franco, and
Oo.
check kung sino
Yan.
yung swerteng 10 teachers na matatap natin to be part of the demo tomorrow.
Teachers, pamahin na po. Mahin na kagad, no? Para mas may live selling, parang live selling. Teachers will announce tomorrow kung sino yung 10 teachers na yun na makakasali po, no, as volunteers para sa ating demonstration ng AR/VR talk natin na tomorrow. And of course, we'll also be having the empowering our classrooms using technology, no, the iSchool Africa experience. To sobrang excited talaga ako.
Correct.
No?
Ibang mundo naman yan, Franco,
Yes,
no?
yes.
But we will see how, again, despite very limited resources, they're making things happen and moving things with technology in very far-flung areas in Africa. So, marami rin tayong matututunan dyan.
Napakagandang model nito, sir. No? I think this is one of the models we have to really look. Kasi usually, sir, no, ang lagi nating models, like example, Finland, Singapore. Well, those are really good models na, pero yung mga disparity with resources na sometimes yung mga models nila does not translate in our context kasi nga there's that lack of resources. Okay? And of course, no, we'll end no, our series with a session, the postponed session, session 1, okay? Bringing the ed back into edtech. No? I love no, even the title pa lang, no? Okay? Yung pag-ano ng fundamentals ng edtech, Sir James.
So we're all excited about these. Kahapon, we learned that we are learning designers. Today, we learned that foundational skills of computational thinking and Scratch. So the next 3 days will be equally, exciting and very, very practical and useful for the teachers. So let's all look forward to it.
Yes, maraming salamat, Sir Jake, no? Okay. And of course, teachers, no, will now give you some reminders regarding our event, no? Okay, para po mas tayo, okay? Ma-remind tayo about certain things. Okay, so once again, for official CPD participants, sign up to Accredited using your registered email address. I was informed, no, by our academic lead, no, for our series, okay, Miss Nina, that all 5,000, Sir Jake, no, have already been added into the Accredited course. No? So what does it mean is that yung letter of confirmation na late pa ng konti, no? Kasi nasa 2,500 pa lang yata kami, Sir Jake, nauna pa yung Accredited. No? So kapag nakatanggap na po kayo ng invitation to the course, go ahead, teachers. No? Okay? Yung pong letter of acceptance will just be a formality being part of the 5,000. Okay? And of course, please make sure, no, be consistent with your email addresses that you're using across all the things that you're filling out, kay signing in teachers na para wala pong masyadong conflict. Kasi may isang instance, Sir Jake, no, may isang teacher nag-sign up sa Accredited, okay, pero hindi niya makita yung course. Pero sabi niya, meron siyang letter of acceptance. Apparently, ang sinign up niyang email address Accredited is actually not the registered email. Magkaiba, hindi yun naka-add, no? So please take note that whatever you use for the registration, teachers, is what Accredited used in order to enroll you to the course. Okay. Take note of the attendance codes, teachers, given at the end of each session. Use the attendance code to complete the attendance form to be posted at the last day of the series. That would be on Saturday, October 1. So doon lang po namin i-release yung isang unified one attendance form na ilalagay niyo po lahat ng attendance code per day to verify your participation. The evaluation form at the end of the session is optional for you, but go ahead if you want because that's for the certificate of participation. Okay. For non-CPD participants, complete the evaluation form at the end of the session to qualify for the certificate of the participation. You may also sign up for Accredited account. Okay, not you may, but actually, please sign up already, no? Kasi sabi ko nga, no, hindi lang naman yung digital education course natin yung makikita nyo doon. Sobrang massive ng collection ng 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 Accredited Plus, sabi nga ni Sir Jake, meron kang connection with other 30,000 educators around the world. Okay? And the course, by the way, will also be made available for all after the series. So kung ano man yung na-access ng mga CPD participants, you will be able to see them also later on as a non-CPD participant. Okay?
Yeah, actually, even yung materials ni Mel will also put it in the course para ma-access din ng lahat ng participants natin. So we can upload them there for easier access to all. Yeah.
Thank you, Sir Jake, na maraming salamat. Okay? So we are now ready for your evaluation form, teachers, and as well as your attendance code for this session. Okay, by the way, sa mga hindi pa po nakaka-access ng instruction how to sign up, you can actually sign up here, follow this instruction at https://tinyurl.com/acadesiaxkts. And here you go, teachers. Okay? Please evaluate this session at https://tinyurl.com/DE02evaluation. The attendance code for today is UCOMAR. Yan, maraming salamat, teachers. Okay, please just do confirm bago kami mag-exit, Do confirm if the form is accessible para po magawan ko ng paraan if the form is not accessible. Working, sir, according to Sir Alan Brutas, Okay, belated happy birthday, Sir Alan Brutas. By the way, Sir Jake, baka narinig mo rin kahapon. Sir Alan kasi is one of our managers ng ating kaagapay teacher support.
Oh, okay.
Hello.
Hello.
Mga tanong, mga nag-manage ng natin ng kaagapay group din natin. Kaya napakalaking tulong po. At Sir Jake, for free para sa community po yan.
Wow,
Wala rin naman pambayad sa KTS, so talagang voluntary. Okay?
Salamat, Alan.
Maraming salamat, teachers. Okay, so Sir Jake, we'll see you tomorrow as well. Okay,
Same time.
Paalam po.
Okay, paalam.